Operation Raincoat. Most people understand that war is hell, but if you ask the average person what made the Italian campaign of 1943 to 44 so brutal, they'll likely mention the terrain, the weather, or the tenacity of the German defenders. They aren't wrong, but they are missing the point. The real story of the Winter Line, and specifically the opening act known as Operation Raincoat, isn't found in the tactical maps or the troop movements. It is found in the broken shoes of a supply carrier. When we look at the battle for the Camino Hill Mass, history tends to focus on the elites, the 1st Special Service Force, the crack commandos who scaled the cliffs of Mount La Defensa, and they were exceptional, but a military force is not a spear, it is a pyramid. The tip is useless without the base. Operation Raincoat, which kicked off on December 3, 1943, was designed to punch a hole in the German Gustav line to open the road to Camino. But before a single elite soldier could fix a bayonet, a different battle had already been fought and won by men whose names we will never know. It was a battle against mud, against math, and against the physical limits of the human spine. To understand the victory, we must first understand the supply chain, because in mountain warfare, the soldier who carries is just as vital as the soldier who shoots. The preparations for Operation Raincoat reveal the forgotten science of pre-industrial logistics in a modern war. The Allied Fifth Army had been pushing north from Naples, but by late November 1943, they hit the Winter Line. This wasn't a line in the sand. It was a wall of mountains overlooking the Mignano Gap. To the men on the ground, it looked impossible, but to the logistical planners, it looked like a math problem. General Clark's plan, Operation Raincoat, required the capture of the Camino Hill Mass, a 6-mile-long complex of peaks including Mount Camino, La Defensa, and Mount Maggiore. To do this, 2nd Corps and the British 10th Corps would launch a coordinated assault. But, before the artillery preparation, the most formidable shoot of the campaign thus far, with 925 pieces firing simultaneously, someone had to get the ammunition up the mountain. The roads, if you could call them that, ended at the base of the peaks. From there, it became a matter of sheer physical labor. The official history notes that to reach one supply point on Canavanel Hill, 270 men of the 143rd Infantry Regiment were used as carrying parties. They packed food, water, and ammunition up a trail so rough that a good pair of shoes was good for only 3 trips. Think about that metric. A pair of military-issue boots, soled and reinforced for combat, lasting only 3 trips. That is the rate of attrition for equipment that isn't even being shot at. The engineers worked tirelessly, sweeping for mines, hauling gravel, building jeep trails, but they couldn't conquer gravity. Mules were used, but there were never enough. This meant that the forward combat troops, the ones who would actually seize the peaks, could only be as strong as the chain of porters behind them. The brutality of the weather during Operation Raincoat was not merely a discomfort, but a force multiplier that threatened to collapse the entire offensive. We talk a lot about environmental adversity in military history. In Italy in December of 1943, it was rain and fog. But the official reports use a word that should stop us cold quagmire. Every dirt road became one. The fog hung so thick on the mountains that visibility was reduced to a few feet, which isolated units as effectively as an enemy patrol. The engineers, the quartermasters, and the line infantry engaged in a daily grinding war of attrition against the weather just to maintain the status quo. There is a quote from a soldier recorded in the Fifth Army history that captures this better than any after-action report. He wrote, "These things constitute war and battle, rain and mud, cold and discomfort, of digging and of sleepless nights and tiring days, of being afraid and of being hungry, of repairing roads and of building bridges, of being lonely, of an endless number of little things." That phrase, an endless number of little things, is the key to Operation Raincoat. While the Germans sat on the high ground, likely in prepared positions with pre-registered fields of fire, the Allies had to move uphill, in the mud, carrying everything on their backs. The endless little things were the broken telephone lines that had to be spliced in the freezing rain so that the artillery could communicate with the forward observers. The endless little things were the wounded men who had to be strapped onto stretchers and carried down those same slippery trails where a misstep meant a 2,000-foot fall. Stamina, perseverance and courage were required in full measure, the report notes, just to outpost the lines. The diversionary tactics employed in the days prior to the assault highlight a critical lesson in deception and enemy psychology. While the porters hauled and the engineers repaired, Fifth Army also engaged in a sophisticated game of misdirection. They needed the Germans to believe the main blow would fall somewhere else. On the right flank, 6th Corps launched diversionary attacks 4 days before Raincoat. The 3rd Ranger Battalion conducted a reconnaissance in force toward San Pietro, drawing intense small arms and mortar fire, convincing the German 15th Panzer Grenadier Division that a major thrust was coming there. Smoke was used daily on Mount Lungo. Bombing runs were distributed across the Liri Valley. This was an attempt to isolate the battlefield psychologically. If the Germans could be convinced that the attack on La Defensa was a feint, they might hold back the reserves. The Hermann Göring Panzer Division and the 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division, which were stationed just 24 hours away. The success of the entire Phase 1 depended on speed and surprise. The elite 1st Special Service Force, attached to the 36th Division, would make the nighttime assault on La Defensa, but their speed depended entirely on the supply levels raised by those anonymous carrying parties in the days prior. If the men at the top ran out of water or ammunition, the pyramid would crumble. The ultimate lesson of Operation Raincoat is that victory in mountain warfare belongs not to the strongest, but to the best supplied. When the guns finally fell silent and the peaks were taken, at tremendous cost, the strategic value was clear. They had unhinged the southern part of the Winterline, paving the way toward the Liri Valley and Casino. But for the survivalist, for the serious student of conflict, the lesson of Raincoat isn't about the final objective, it is about the approach. It is a case study in the tyranny of terrain and logistics. It teaches us that no amount of tactical brilliance can overcome a failure in basic supply. The human endurance required to fight the Germans was immense, but the endurance required to simply exist on that mountainside, to carry a shell up a muddy trail in the dark, to repair a wire while being shelled, that was the foundation upon which the entire operation rested. Operation Raincoat is often just a footnote, a prelude to the bloodbath at Casino or the glory stories of the Devil's Brigade, but if you strip away the romance of war, you are left with the reality men doing an endless number of little things in the rain, so that the job could get done. Remembering that is how we honor them. More importantly, understanding it is how we prepare ourselves for the challenges that always await those who have to move heavy objects over bad ground in bad weather. If you value in-depth historical analysis that goes beyond the medals and looks at the machinery of survival, make sure you are subscribed to War Machiner. Hit that subscribe button, and if you found this look at the overlooked realities of war valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it. We don't do surface level here, we dig deep so you don't have to dig through the archives alone.